Hello, my beautiful friends. I am Bleadon-Maffei with Illuminating Souls, welcoming you to this episode of Sleepy Bedtime Blessings, a podcast designed to help you rest, relax, and fall asleep, all while deepening in your connection with your beautiful team of angels who love you so. If we're meeting for the first time, allow me to introduce myself. I am an angelic practitioner, a spiritual teacher, and an encourager of souls. And this means I have the most wonderful job that doesn't feel like a job at all. It feels like my great joy. I facilitate one-on-one sessions, including angel sessions, and a longer form of support, soul mentoring. And I also teach a variety of classes designed to inspire your spirit. All of my sessions take place over the phone, and all of my classes take place over Zoom. For the most part, my classes are small in size, and so we really have an opportunity to get to know each other. And usually I have a new class starting every 6 weeks or so. If you also happen to be a soul-inspired practitioner, if you are a Reiki master, an intuitive, a life coach, an energy healer, an artist, a writer, somebody who is guided to use your life force to help bring more love and inspiration into the world, I have a beautiful group I'd like to invite you to join. And it is my Joy in Business group. It is a mentoring group for other soul-inspired practitioners like you. We meet every Monday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific time. In terms of my philosophy around these kinds of businesses, I have been in business. This is my 19th year. I'm starting my 19th year of doing this work full time. And I think often in these kinds of businesses, we are sold a bill of goods that says we have to follow certain strategies. And perhaps you have invested a lot of money in studying about business and sales funnels and copywriting. And just so you know, that's not my style. I love co-creating. And so I listen, I attune to the soul of my business, and it guides me. And this is the philosophy I hold for and teach in my class. So if that ever sounds like that might be up your alley, let me know. Even if you don't know what your business is yet, but you're feeling guided to create something, it would be my blessing to support you. So you can learn more at my website, illuminatingsouls.com, where you can also sign up for my mailing list. But for now, the angels and I are here to help you come into a sweet, soothing space where you can replenish, connect with the divine love that is here for you, and drift off to sleep if that is your intention. I say it that way because I know some of you listen during your waking hours, and if this is how you use the podcast, it is a pleasure to keep you company. And if you are getting ready to go to sleep, I invite you to get cozy in whatever way works best for you. This podcast is an unlikely mashup of two of my favorite forms of self-care, which is angels, yay, Team Angels, and listening to a sleep podcast before I go to bed every night. So the way I use sleep podcasts is, first I crawl into bed. I love crawling into bed. It is one of my favorite times of day, and this is coming from somebody who really loves her life. I love my life. But there is just something delicious about bedtime. Knowing that I have lived another day of my life, and I now get to declare it complete. And so usually I go to bed before my husband does. He likes to stay up a little later, which is not hard to do because these days I'm in bed by 7 or 8 o'clock. And I think most adults prefer to go to bed a little later than that. And so I crawl under the covers because it's a bit chilly here and we love sleeping cold, so that's great. And then I pick something to listen to. There are quite a number of sleep podcasts that I listen to, including this one. And right now I'm having a love affair with the Calm app, Calm. I found out that through our insurance company, we get to have a free subscription to Calm, which is awesome. And they have beautiful sleep stories there as well. But thank you for spending time with me here now. And my hope is between the beautiful angelic energy and the ramblings from yours truly, we can create a beautiful space for you to replenish and rest. Each episode runs about an hour, and that is because that is my preference as a listener. I love to have plenty of time to drift off. So usually the first 15 to 20 minutes is these kinds of rambles where I share a little bit and we call in the angels. And then we move into story time. And there's a special story time I'm going to be sharing with you in this episode. I haven't told this story in a long time, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with you. As I record this, there are so many changes taking place in the world, in our lives. And I think it's a really important time to up-level our self-care. And just so you know, this doesn't mean I'm going to tell you you need to meditate more and have green smoothies. I mean whatever helps your mental health right now and your emotional health and helps keep your body as balanced as you can keep it. I'm finding that I need to engage in things that give me a different focal point. As those of you who listen know, I crochet. I love to crochet. I have way more yarn than I will be able to use this year. I love having my own little stash here. And I've been crocheting since I was 8 years old. Also, at some point, my mother taught me to knit, but I would say I'm a rudimentary knitter. I know how to just do the knit, and I hadn't really ever learned to purl or add stitches or reduce stitches, or so I could pretty much just do a panel, and I haven't knitted in forever. But somehow, between Instagram and TikTok, I somehow found my way to knitting. And so there's a reason I'm sharing all of this with you. It is one of the things I am doing right now to shift focus. Since knitting is not already a well-worn path in terms of my muscle memory and my consciousness, I have to really, really focus to knit. All right, I just had to stop recording for a second because I just heard my husband come home and I don't remember where I was. I know I was talking about knitting. So it keeps me in this weird place of hyper-focus. And I think right now my consciousness needs that. I have been doing the knit stitch. I've been doing the purl stitch. I've been learning the difference between English style of knitting and continental. Turns out I had learned English all those years ago. It's okay if you don't know what I'm talking about, because it doesn't really matter. I'm just saying it's like if there is something you've been wanting to learn, if you wanted to start making beaded jewelry or painting or quilting, or it doesn't even have to be craft oriented, learning to make a certain kind of soup. This is a really good time to do that because I think many of us need an outlet where we can shift focus. Mid-Journey has been that for me for a long time. That is the AI art creation program that I use. But I've gotten really good at Mid-Journey now, so it's not necessarily the same kind of outlet it was for me in the beginning when I was trying to figure things out. There's something about figuring out a new skill that can be easily won that is, for me, a joy. I say easily won because, for instance, learning a new language does not come easily to me, and it would not be the kind of focal point that would bring me joy. But knitting's working pretty good for me right now. So, whatever your thing might be, I invite you to also contemplate opening the treasure chest of opportunities for you that might help you shift focus a little bit into something that will nurture you. So, take a deep breath in and just let yourself come into this beautiful sanctuary filled with love for you. The angels are here, and it is my joy to share them with you. Let's go ahead and just again take some nice deep breaths in and out as we gently call ourselves forward into the heart of God. And beautiful angels on high, I invite you to join us here. And I ask that you infuse this broadcast with waves of love and goodness, with healing, with inspiration, helping to clear from us anything that is not ours, anything that feels too heavy to carry. Please lift this from us and bring it to the light. Angels, surround us with your prayers and your joy and your goodness. So dear ones, just take some more nice deep breaths in, allowing this light to flow to you now. I find it very helpful to envision the space I'm in filling with a soft pink light. So I invite you to do that now. Just imagine the angels are bringing to you a beautiful soft pink light or a beautiful violet light. Whatever color to you feels soothing. And just breathe, allowing this light to flow to every cell in your body, every thought in your mind, and every emotion in your heart. Allowing this wave of love to ripple to every circumstance in your life, known and unknown, seen and unseen. Allowing this light to ripple to all that you love, everyone, everything across the timeline of your life. There's something so powerful about holding all of it up to the light. It's what I do when I don't know what to do. I'm a pretty resourceful person, so I'm good at figuring things out, but life can easily sometimes feel overwhelming, or where my intellect is not getting me to the answer that I seek. When that happens, I hold it up to the light. And I ask God and the angels for help. Help me find my way. Help me clear this energy from my heart. Help me come into a deeper state of grace. Help me open to receiving the goodness that is available for me here on this path. Help bring me support in a way that is deeply meaningful for me. Help me be of loving service in this world. Anything that comes forward for you, you can ask for. see, even though the angels know what is happening in our lives, the act of asking in many ways is the catalyst that allows for the portal of light to flow to us, because this is a realm of free will, and we get to choose and we get to experience. It's not about this always being a bright and shiny experience. We all go through shadow and light. But when we ask for help, it creates a portal within ourselves and also in the greater universe, I guess I would call it, where we make space to receive. And you can ask for help with anything. Nothing is too small. You are not taking the angels away from something more important. And so if there's anything on your heart that you would like support with, just ask the angels. And it's not like having a genie in the bottle where all your wishes will come true. But if I could describe it to you, it creates an opportunity for molecules of life to rearrange in ways that can be more supportive. It's not infallible, but more often than not, I experience shifts of positivity as a result. And sometimes the shifts of positivity may simply be in my own consciousness, because how we hold for something in consciousness can profoundly impact our experience of it. So it's really helpful to ask the angels, help me gain more altitude here. Help heal my heart or how I'm holding this in consciousness so that I feel more grace. So your angels are here for you, and they're taking really good care of you. And this connection belongs to you. The angels have been with you since before you were born. They know you and love you, always and forever. You will never annoy them. You will never cause them to turn away from you. They are here to shine light upon you. So let's take another deep breath in, just breathing in this love. And if you are preparing for sleep, just take some nice deep breaths in, and whenever you're ready, or your consciousness or body are ready, you have my blessing as you drift off. If you're going about your day, if these are your waking hours, it is my blessing and joy to keep you company. And the love is still with you, whether you're awake or asleep. The love of the angels is with you. So my friends, let's cozy on up and snuggle on in whatever way feels best to you. And we are going to move on into story time. So in this story time, I'm going to share with you an experience from my life that has been profoundly meaningful. And once upon a time, I had another podcast called Musings of an Earth Girl that is no longer published. And this was one of the episodes. This is one of the stories I shared back then. And it's an episode I even was able to share with my mom while she was still alive, and she really enjoyed it. And so it's a really powerful time of my life, and I'm really guided to share it with you now because of what has been happening in Los Angeles. I'm not going to speak it. You'll know what it is. If you're not sure what it is, if you're listening to this episode 5 years later, just Google Los Angeles, January 2025, and you will know. So this is my story of the love and the healing I experienced for a year or two of my life as I learned to hike through the Santa Monica Mountains and specifically Will Rogers State Park. So I want to share with you how that happened and the experiences I had. So if you've been following me on social media for a long time, one of the most popular quotes I have ever published is this: "I found my heart upon a mountain I did not know I could climb. And I wonder how many other pieces of myself are secreted away in places I judge I cannot go." And that quote is inspired by what I'm going to share with you. So, it is September of 2001, and I'm about to enter my second year at the University of Santa Monica for my master's degree in spiritual psychology. And during the second year, we are invited to bring forth a 9-month project that is deeply heartfelt. And it's something that you feel like you probably could not accomplish on your own. And they would say in class, that thing you're thinking about right now, that's the thing. So at that moment in my life, my journey had been my body, always and forever. I wanted to lose weight. That simple. I didn't know how it was going to happen. I knew I needed a miracle, and that was going to be my project. And it turned into a body project, loving my body. And I knew that for part of this project, I would have to somehow exercise. And I had had a very difficult I'm trying to think of my adjectives here. Difficult, traumatic, resistant experience with exercise. It started as a child. Now, I was an active child. I loved riding my bike. I loved swimming. I loved running around with the kids. But the second it became structured like gym class, I hated it. It was traumatic for me because I could not do what the other children could do. I don't know how many of you in my generation remember the president's physical fitness test, but we had to do all these different things that I could not do. And one of them was climbing a rope. I can even just smell the gymnasium right now. And we had to wear these gym suits that were polyester, and ours were blue and awful. And part of this president's physical fitness test was there would be a rope dangling from the ceiling. And the goal was to grasp onto it and haul yourself up the rope. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever climbed a rope before, but there is nothing easy about it, especially for me, a chubby little girl with no upper arm strength. And so we all had to go one at a time. And sure enough, there was always some nimble kid who could shimmy up the rope. And it would inevitably come to me. And it would be like, okay, Laurel. And I just wanted to say, who are we kidding? It is not going to happen. Have you met me? Have you seen my body? But they would make me try. And of course, all the kids would laugh because, so I had just a whole Rolodex of those kinds of experiences that made me loathe and fear anything that was considered exercise. Now, during the 80s, during the whole Jane Fonda step aerobic, it's not that I didn't try. I certainly had experiences where I would go to the gym, all of those January commitments, step aerobics that I could hardly do. And so I share all of this because this idea that I would somehow incorporate body movement in a loving, healthy way into my second year project felt almost impossible. So one of my classmates and friends, who became one of my dear friends, is Darren. Now, Darren is this bright, shiny person. He's got this aura about him. Darren is the kind of guy that everybody loves. He's just one of those golden people, right? That it's easy to love him. And Darren, at this point in his life, was a personal trainer. So I said to him, I wanted to talk to you about maybe training with you as part of my second year project. So our class was going to start in October, and this is September. And I met him at the Good Earth in the Valley. And we're having our breakfast, and I'm almost crying. I'm almost in tears because so much of the USM experience for me was crying out all of the things I hadn't allowed myself to cry about my whole life. And I said, I'm really terrified about this, and I don't know that I can do this, but I would like to train with you as part of my second year project. And Darren, being Darren, was like, yes, of course. And we agreed on the fees and, the structure of it. And he said, terrific. What are you doing this weekend? And I said, what are you talking about? He goes, let's start this weekend. I said, oh no. No. I was thinking we would start in October when class begins. And he said, what are you doing this weekend? And I was like, F you, no, not going to happen. And he said, what are you doing this weekend? And I was like, I hate you, and okay. One of the wondrous things of working with Darren for as long as I worked with him was he never, for a single second, bought my sad story. It's not that he could not hold for my sadness, but he was not in the least bit kowtowed by it. Listen, I'd gotten pretty good about telling my sad story and getting people into alignment with my predicament, and not for a single moment did he give it power. Thank God. So I meet him at the gym in the next day or two, and it was such a raw experience for me because I was in the middle of this deep, years-long process of healing beliefs, fears, pain, judgment. So everything was at the surface. And as we started to work out, I found myself just crying. And I said, so many of the things I said felt like they were coming out of nowhere, but they were deep, deep, deep beliefs. I said, I feel like I'm going to die. Like I'm not being dramatic here. I feel like I'm going to die if I do this. And he just was very kind. He said, it's okay. You're going to be okay. So that was our first time working out together. And I shared that little tidbit with you so that you know that he was someone who could hold a deep, sacred space for what I was experiencing. So at some point in our training together, he invites me to meet him at a trailhead in the valley. And he says, we'll go hiking. Now I'm thinking flat ground hiking, right? I come from the Midwest. There are no hills. I know there are hills in Los Angeles, but I'm just saying, I thought hiking would be like walking through a forest or something, right? I could do that. And we get to this trailhead, and it appears to me that it's a straight vertical shot up. Now it's really not, but that's how it felt to me. it was this steep incline of a hike. And everybody else is hiking up, right? Kids, dogs, old people, like everybody else is whizzing past us, and I'm frozen in fear. And I said, I can't do that. No, I'm afraid I'm going to die. Like, I kept that phrase kept coming up for me. Like, it was so deep. And he said this, and this is one of the most profound pieces of wisdom I have ever received. I gift it to you now. It's this. Here's how we're going to get up this trail. You're going to take a step, and if you need to, you're going to rest. And then you're going to take another step, and if you need to, you rest. That's how we climb up this trail. You'll take as many steps as you can, and when you need to rest, we're going to rest. But I'm getting you up there. And I trusted him, and I loved him, and I knew that he loved me. And so I said, okay. And so that's how we did it. And I probably cried the whole time. I don't even remember, but layers of pain and beliefs and trauma were being shed as I made my way up that trail. And I reached the flat ground. Like, there's a reward when you walk up these hills in Santa Monica that at some point it levels out, and we reached the leveled out place. And it was a huge celebration, and he celebrated me, and I celebrated with him, and I had accomplished something I did not know I could accomplish. So that was the first chapter. And here's what comes next. So I had heard wonderful things about Will Rogers State Park and the trail there. And to be honest, I can't remember if I'd ever gone there with Darren. I don't think I had at that point yet. But I knew that I wanted to go there. And so it was Christmas Eve day. The reason I remember that is, well, I'll tell you into the story, but it was Christmas Eve day, so just bear that in mind. And I don't really know where I'm going. I'm kind of following people who appear to be walking up this trail. Now, I'm calling it a mountain. Other people might call it a hill. Next pearl of wisdom. My hill may be your mountain, and your mountain may be my hill. Hills and mountains are relative to our abilities and our beliefs. This was my mountain. Other people, it was a hill. So I was following people in the direction I thought I had to go. And I was wearing like a zippered up sweat jacket. And I had my keys in my pocket. I think you know where this is going, right? And I hiked further than I thought I could. Now, it wasn't that far, I would come to know later. It was about a 2-mile loop all the way around, and maybe I'd gone half a mile, but it was more than I'd ever gone before, and it took everything out of me to do that. But I felt so victorious. And the trail at Will Rogers State Park is glorious. Like, there's a part where you walk around a bend and you see the ocean. Like, it's beautiful. And so I walk further than I think I can walk. And then I have to head back down. So I walk back down feeling like I just completed a triathlon. So victorious and exhausted. But I did it. And I reach into my pocket. Say it with me. My keys are gone. My keys are gone. And it's Christmas Eve day, and I live alone, so it's not like I have a roommate or a husband who can bring me my spare keys. the people I normally would have called were not in town. And I look back up at this trail thinking, oh my God, I have to go up there again and look for my keys. I didn't think I could do it one time, but apparently Spirit thinks I can do it twice. Oh crap. And so I started up the same trail I had just ascended and descended for the second time, looking for my keys. Oh, that my keys were on a giant fluorescent key ring, but they weren't, of course. And as I'm going back up the trail, a few people were coming down in the other direction, and I would ask them, have you seen keys? Or if you see keys, they're mine. And I saw this one couple with an adorable, cute, white, like cockapoo dog. And of course I said to them, have you seen any keys? And they said no. And I said, if you happen to find some, my name is Laurel, and would you leave them at the ranger shed where you pull in to park? So I go all the way back to where I had gone the first time, and alas, no keys. So I have to turn back around and come back down and look some more. No keys. And so I'm going through, who do you even call? Do you call AAA? And I didn't have my phone, and I guess I would go to the ranger station. Hopefully they would be there, and somebody would have to come and rescue me. This is before Uber. And so now I'm exhausted because I've done this twice, and I'm stressed out because I have no keys. And I go walking up to the parking shack where the ranger is, and I said, by any chance, did anyone turn in keys? And he goes, you're Laurel. I said, oh my God, I am Laurel. You have my keys, don't you? He goes, yes. This couple with a dog turned them in. And I just started crying. I was like, oh my God, I'm so glad I'm Laurel, and I'm so glad you have my keys. So, thank God, my keys were found by the cute couple with their dog, and I was able to drive myself home. And what I find so amazing about that story is during the first round, I hiked further than I thought I could. And then when I got back to the car and didn't have my keys, I was like, oh my God, I need to do this again. I don't think I can. But apparently God and the angels were like, girlfriend, you got more in your tank than you think you do. Go back up that mountain. And then that my keys were found was just a miracle. So that is chapter 2 of my story. And there's so much more. So at some point, Darren meets me at the trailhead in Will Rogers State Park. Not on Christmas Eve day, but maybe a few weeks later. I don't quite remember. And we walked it together. And you know, he was pushing me further than I thought I could go. And that was the thing that I was learning from Darren, that I had more in me than I thought I did. And if I exerted myself, no harm would come to me. So I could do more than I thought I could. And I had absolutely fallen in love with this trail. And along the trail was so much different foliage, and one of the bushes, Darren told me it's called cowboy sage. Whether it's called that or not, I don't know, but I call it cowboy sage because that's what Darren told me it is. And if you picked a little bit and crushed the needles between your fingers, you could smell it the whole way up the trail. So every time I would go to the trail, I would find some cowboy sage, and I would ask it if I could pick some. And it would always say yes, and not too much, please. And so I would pick a little stem and scent it all the way up the trail. And so the pockets of my zippered sweat jacket were getting filled with these needles, but it smelled wonderful. And then one time I was there on my own, and I saw people walking up this rather steep ascent trail to get up to the bigger trail. So I had been going around this longer loop to get to the bigger trail, but I saw all of these people were walking up this very steep ascent to get to the same place. So it would almost be like walking up 6 flights of stairs, perhaps. And I thought, I wonder if I could do that. And so I tried. And I did. Now, every time I made that ascent, I would get to the bigger trail, and I would be huffing and puffing. I would be bright red. Some people work out and they're very attractive. I'm not. I'm not saying I'm not an attractive person, but I am really not an attractive person when I'm exerting myself, because I turn so many shades of red and my hair's frizzing out and I'm breathing like so hard, like huffing and puffing, and other people are just like breezing past me and I'm almost like bent over with my hands on my knees catching my breath. But it didn't matter because I made it. So you get to the bigger part of the trail, and the way the trail works is you'd walk around kind of a curve, maybe a quarter mile, and then it would curve around and you would be looking out right at the Pacific Ocean. It was magnificent. And so I'm going to describe the trail to you. So I would always have to stop and pause because it was so beautiful. And then you'd keep walking. Now, the more I walked this trail, because I wound up becoming someone who would wake up at like 4:30 or 5 in the morning, drive to Will Rogers State Park, which is a pretty good ways away from my apartment, go for a hike where I would hike the whole loop, which was 2 miles, and then come home and shower and then go to work in Hollywood. That I was able to do this. And I grew to love it. I grew to need it. I needed this trail. Because as I would hike this trail, I would talk to God. I would commune with my heart. I would contemplate. I always carried with me a bag where I would keep my water bottle, and then I would also keep folded up paper and gel pens, so if I felt like writing something, I could. So I began hiking this trail 4 or more times a week. And I developed a relationship with it. I didn't listen to music. Rarely would I hike with someone else. Darren would sometimes make the hike with me. But this was mine. And so first off, let me describe the trail to you, at least the parts that I was absolutely in love with. So after you see the ocean and you walk up a little ways, one time I noticed there was almost like this little deer trail that went off into the brush. And one time I saw somebody walking out of it. So my curiosity got the better of me. And I was like, I wonder where that goes. Like, that's the other thing that was born for me in this time, was curiosity. Like, I didn't have to stay on the trail. I could see where things went. So I saw them leaving and I went into that little deer trail. And you know what was just beyond the brush? A park bench. A park bench. And when you sat in this park bench, all you would hear was nothing, in the most wonderful way. And you would look out into like the valley and you would see the ocean and the greenery. it was magnificent, and almost no one knew about this bench. In all the times I would go there and sit, I don't remember there ever being anyone else there. So it was sort of like my little secret place. So there was the secret bench. That was wonderful. And then I would keep walking, and at some point, the trail would get a little steeper. So I would huff and puff. And then the other big reward was there was another steeper ascent, but it brought you to this flat pad at what I called the top of the trail. There were other tops of the trail that were higher up, but this was my top of the trail. And there were picnic benches. Like, I didn't know there were picnic benches at the top of the world, is what I called it. And so usually what would happen is I would get there to the top of the world, and I would sit at a picnic bench, and I would get out my paper and pen, and I would write. I would write a piece of prose. I would write a journal entry. I would write messages from the angels, because almost every single time that I hiked this trail, it's like layers of myself were sloughing off, and more of my authentic self was emerging. That trail, those mountains gave birth to me. Honest to God. I was a different person at the end of that year. And I would cry and I would talk to God. I began visioning illuminating souls in those hikes. I didn't know it was going to be illuminating souls. I knew I wanted to teach, and I wanted to facilitate classes that would inspire people. And I birthed my first ever class that actually never happened, called the Creativity Treasure Hunt. Phenomenal name, yes. I still own the URL. It was born on those hikes. And I had lots of other little trails there I would go on. You know, if you turned right here, it took you to a different experience than if you turned it left. There was one part where if I sort of went in to the trees a little bit, there was this like canopied opening, so the trees just covered it, but it felt sacred, almost like it was a fairy glen. It was very small. And at some point, I think I married myself there. I was like, okay, I'm going to love myself for the rest of my life. And like everything about it was so sacred. It was my mountain. And I still have pages and pages and pages of things I wrote during those hikes. So those mountains gave birth to me. I really know that that is true. I needed all of those hours of being with myself, body, mind, and spirit, because all parts of myself had to be present. So it wasn't just sitting in stillness and meditation and trying to get my mind to be quiet. It was feeling my body, feeling my muscles, feeling my breath, drinking my water, hearing the words move through me that I would have to stop and write down. There were times that I would hike with my friends up there, and we would stand where the picnic benches were, and we would yell our affirmations out into the universe. And I'm not sure the neighbors there liked that very much, but we loved it. Or we would sing the hymns from Agape Spiritual Center as we hiked up, and I came alive on those hikes. You see, I don't know how alive I was up until that point. I was certainly living, so I don't mean to make it sound like I wasn't, but it's like I was carrying so much with me that made it difficult to be present in my own beingness. I don't know how else to describe it. My self-judgments, my beliefs that I hadn't accomplished what I thought I wanted to accomplish. We're very messy creatures, all of us, yes? And our consciousness is complicated, and there's so many layers to us. But something about showing up there every morning and on the weekends and hiking the same trail. And the hike would never be the same because I might take a different turn, or I would talk to a different cowboy sage bush, or I would find a bluebird feather. It was never the same because everything changes all the time. And so I would be in this state of observation. What did the mountain want me to know today? What did I want the mountain to know today? And there were times I would go and the sun wouldn't be up yet. It would be so early in the morning that I would hike the first part of the trail in the darkness. And then the sun would be rising as I came back down. You know what else I learned? This just brings me so much joy. So, I grew up in big cities, and in my world, when you're walking, you kind of keep your eyes down. You don't meet somebody else's gaze. And I mean, that was just, you kind of mind your own business, blinders on, and go about your business. And the most wonderful thing happened as we were hiking, and I would be hiking specifically with Darren, who I've already told you is a bright, shiny person, that as we were hiking and somebody would be walking towards us, Darren would look at them and smile and go, "Good morning." And the most remarkable thing happened. They would go, "Good morning." And I thought, oh, we're allowed to smile and say good morning to each other. It's such a weird thing to have an epiphany over, but that was one of my epiphanies. Because Darren, when he would say good morning and smile, he meant it with his whole self. And that's the way people responded. People didn't respond like, "Good morning." They were like, "Good morning." It was such an enormous lesson for me. And so from then on, that was the culture. I would pass someone, I'd be like, "Good morning, hello, have a good hike." It was like this little club where we were kind to each other and we acknowledged each other. Another super cool thing that happened is I was hiking one time, and it was Rosh Hashanah, and somebody was blowing the shofar, which is the ram's horn, on the trail. So that was a holy moment of amazement. So all of these amazing things happened on the trail. I learned so much about myself, and I shed the old layers that I did not want to embody anymore. And Will Rogers State Park and the mountain gave birth to the expression of me that you now know. Honest to God, that did. And I'm here today doing the work that I do because of all of those rotations around that trail, and Darren showing me that I would not die. And, every time we hiked, because he often would take the hike with me as part of our training sessions, we would share so much. And so that was the other thing, was I learned that I wasn't too much, that I could share from my heart and it would not intimidate another. We all hold really weird beliefs. Well, I do, for sure. And one of mine was I'm too much. That if I ever let somebody see and feel everything that I am, it would be too much. Because I think all of us learn how to share parts of ourselves, right? But what happens when we are trying to become a whole person and we're not going to tuck away parts of ourselves anymore? So one of the things I learned from Darren is that I wasn't too much, and I was more than I thought I was, and I could do more than I thought I could. because all of this was happening while I was in the second year at USM. So my project, Learning to Love My Body, wound up being about learning to hike the trail and everything that happened as a result. And I think that's one of the miracles of what I experienced at the University of Santa Monica is I went in thinking I was there for one thing. In spirit, God, the angel said, "Oh, honey, you're here for something else, but it's going to take a little while for us to move into that conversation." And so I found my heart upon a mountain I did not know I could climb. And I wonder how many other pieces of myself are secreted away in places I judge I cannot go. So take a breath with me. It's one of the things I love so much about the work that I get to do now. We all have mountains. It doesn't have to be a geological formation. Your mountain might be speaking in front of people. Your mountain might be writing your book. We all have mountains that frighten us, but they're also mountains that invite us forward. And one of the things I love to do is helping people navigate their own mountains, tiny baby steps at a time. We don't have to do it in one leap. Life is iterative. It can take time to allow ourselves to birth a new expression of ourselves. So I've learned to be patient, but I've also learned we have to show up. It didn't matter to Darren if I showed up crabby, in resistance, crying, screaming. It's like, you can bitch the whole time, but we're doing it. It was so refreshing to be with somebody who is not intimidated by that expression of me. I'm a pretty stubborn girl. I'm a Taurus. And I'm a force to be reckoned with. I can absolutely be an immovable object. And he got me moving, which I don't even know how he had the ability to do that. And so it also helped open me up to be ready for when Wes showed up. Wes also knows how to get me moving. And the strategy is you wait in the tall grass until I'm ready to move. And then you kind of put a hand on my butt and push. But at some point it will be my idea. At some point I will say, okay, all right, I'll try. And that little window is all that is needed to get me into a place where I will try that which is uncomfortable or scary for me. So let's breathe in together. So I wanted to share this because a lot of what has happened in Los Angeles in this past week happened in that area where those hikes and that mountain gave birth to me. So I am holding now to help that mountain and that neighborhood come into its own rebirth over time. It is land that is very sacred to me. To many. I don't mean to make it, it's not all about me. I don't mean it that way, but it lives in my heart. It lives in my spirit. I'm so profoundly grateful that it existed when I didn't even know I needed it. I needed to be in relationship with it. I needed to witness how the fog could roll in and fill in the valley, and then it would move out. The seasons where the leaves would drop off the trees, and then the spring when they would come back. I needed to be in relationship with the trail and the mountain over a period of years. because it taught me about myself, and it taught me about life, and it taught me about the healing of Mother Earth, and the deer on the trail, and the bluebirds, and the wild parrots, and the cowboy sage that smelled so beautiful. So I hope you find your magic places. If it scares you a little bit in the beginning, it's okay. It's all right. You are made of much more than you know. So here's to the places that help us birth even more of who we are. So this is our story time, and I think you'll understand why this was the story to share with you in this episode. Here's to my love of the Santa Monica Mountains. Here's my gratitude to Will Rogers, who donated his ranch and his home to the people of Los Angeles, so that all those years later, it would be available to hike, not only for me, but for many, many other people. So thank you for the beautiful places that now live in my heart, and that I can offer up in service to regeneration and rebirth. All right, my dear friends, thank you for allowing me to share this beautiful story with you. I love you so much. I send you all the blessings of love. And I'm grateful for the gift of you. Thank you. And if you're drifting off to sleep, I wish you the sweetest of dreams.